Okay, I think King Cailan sucks.
I love that dumb motherfucker.
So when I talk to him as a dwarf, he does the very much, like, you've met people who've been on study abroad trips, right? So, like, he's very much like, oh my god, I studied abroad in Orzammar, I just love dwarven culture. Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm channeling my hyperfixation from 2015.
And this week, we examine the start of a franchise with Dragon Age Origins. Before we slurp some delicious black blood, remember you can help us on Mortified Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Tumblr at MortifiedPod.
Not Twitter. Note.
Twitter, we're not going to talk about it, but both me and Leyla are stepping back from Twitter. Leyla, I think, a lot more, but...
Oh yeah, I'm fully not on it anymore.
It's rough. It's bad. Leyla.
Aaron.
Can you, in less than 1 minute, summarize your feelings on Dragon Age?
I can both summon and summarize them. I love Origins. 2 is my baby. Inquisition is the redheaded stepchild to me, but that's okay. They are great games that I was very hyperfixated on between the years of 2015 to 17. In the clinical sense... my wishlist item is for people to stop using hyperfixation for casual obsession. They're good games, and they saved my life when I was very sad, so I'm very indebted to them, but that also means I've put 1,000 hours in them and have many complicated opinions. How did you enjoy your time?
So, yeah, it's interesting. I actually played a little bit of Dragon Age Origins when it came out in, 2009. I had a friend who got it for PS3, I believe. And, we played through that, and I got to, kind of see how that system worked, and I was intrigued, but didn't end up actually playing it until, I want to say, around the same time that you started getting into it, just because, I had played through Mass Effect, and I was like, okay, I should also probably play through the Dragon Age series. I think I got 2, actually, for the PS3, and played that a lot, and I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. I had a great time with 2, but I tried Inquisition a little bit and dropped off it because it's a boring game, unfortunately. So I've played it and I remember enjoying it, but I had also maybe not last year, but the year before, had tried to introduce my wife to it. And we played through the first hour, and we chose the elf commoner background, and that is one of the worst ones to start anybody with. And so we didn't play that again. And we'll talk about that here in a sec. But yeah, I like Dragon Age. I especially like 2. I think Origins is absolutely a relic of its time. There's some just heinous choices it makes with its openings, depending on which openings you choose, that I truly do not blame anybody for just being like, oh, I'm not going to play this fucking series. Why would I do this? This series sucks ass. But I think if you are able to get around that, it does actually have some pretty interesting narrative choices and lore. And it's BioWare, right? These are the people who, these are the Baldur's Gate people, right? We say on Baldur's Gate 3 launch day. I think they have a very strong narrative lineage. But yeah, I went back through it. I played, we didn't play the whole thing. I played up through the battle at, what's it called? Ostagar, and a little bit afterwards into the village that's outside of that. Mm-hmm. So, I would say about 4-ish hours. But, I enjoyed 3 of them. So you can't. Actually, it took me 2 hours to get through the prologue, so I enjoyed the stuff after the prologue. But yeah, that's kind of where I come down on it, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so the Origins I play, again, hyperfixation in the sense that when I played Origins, I, for the most part, in all of my playthroughs of it, played through kind of the same choice set, just on repeat, Don't know why, just what my brain wanted at the time. So I usually do the female elf mage route, and then I have also played the human noble route, which is actually really good. I usually don't love the, like, quote-unquote standard human noble, quest lines or whatever. But I like that one. There's some good side characters. The the joke with Origins, again, relic of its time, right? It was... it's actually quite good in terms of, like, representation for 2008.
Right.
But, playing it in 2023, there's certainly some issues. But it's funny because when you're making your elf character, there's, like, there is or used to be some flavor text kind of at the beginning.
There still is, yeah.
Oh, in the the realm of Thetis, people don't treat women any differently.
Yeah, it's like, is that true? That's not. I don't think you're correct about that. They treat women way differently here in Thetis.
There's like a whole quest line in Lothering. I don't know if you got to it, but there's this for lack of a better word, a barmaid who's just like constantly sexually harassed by her boss, and you can like help her get out of Lothering after the battle. Basically by giving her money. I'm kind of in the middle of like an actual replay of Origins because there's some like movement around Dreadwolf. They're an alpha. They announced it. So I'm trying to replay the series and kind of like emotionally prepare myself and kind of refresh myself on the lore and the story. Not that I need to do it, but whatever. I'm doing it. And it's just interesting because like, there's just so many little things like that where you're like, wow, this is aged, huh? The series really, like, if we play 1, 2, and 3, they're all kind of functionally different games. Dragon Age's identity is really weird. That's partially kind of what I like about it in the sense that, there's always iteration or like exploration on a theme. But Origins is very one of a kind in the sense that it's very strategic and it's more political than Tour Inquisition. So it's that's what the Origins kind of lead towards, especially the dwarven ones and the human noble ones. And then the mage one is very isolated because you're in a tower.
right and that's a whole different thing because of the way that the mages are treated in this setting, which I think is interesting.
Can I very quickly explain to you my it's not a conspiracy theory, but my like my pitch to BioWare about why mages should be in a tower? It has to do with taxes. I think BioWare, if you're listening, I think it'd be very fun and compelling if whenever a mage went to the tower from whatever town, that the town that they came from or the town that they were found in, because there's traveling apostates, had to pay in taxes the cost of the stay of that mage in the tower, because then it would give people a reason to not like mages, because every time one gets caught, raises their taxes. And the bigger cities can shoulder that burden no problem, but in the little villages, it's harder.
See, that's interesting. That's a good world building nugget there.
Yeah, BioWare. I will take $5 and early access for Dreadwolf for that.
That's shockingly low.
I'm not a writer, I'm a producer,
I suppose. But yeah, I'll talk about what my playthrough was like a little bit. I started as a male dwarf commoner.
Is that Braska?
Farron Braska, yes, that's my character's name. And I usually don't use or dwarves as when I'm doing like a fantasy setting game, just not an archetype that interests me. But I was like, sure, let's try it. Let's mix things up. And in this setting, dwarves have a caste system.
Yes.
Which was my first tip off. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be complicated. And listen, I don't think that fantasy is not allowed to use caste systems, right? They're replicating a real world phenomenon. It is a little bit weird when it's just like, we're just going to do what Hinduism does. We're just going to be like, yeah, there's a noble caste, there's a warrior class, there's a peace, there's a priest class, and then there's the castes that there's the caste list, which is analogous to the Dalit or Untouchables in Hinduism, and they're pretty much treated the same way. They're not allowed to really participate in society. They're discriminated against. So I don't know. I wouldn't have made that choice in the year of our Lord, 2023 certainly, and in 2009, I guess we had ended racism because Barack Obama got elected. So
and you got to remember that it came out in 2008, so there was still racism because it was in production before Barack Obama got elected.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, basically. My family situation is that my sister is kind of like an escort / sex worker, and her whole deal is if she can entice somebody from a noble house to get her pregnant, then that will elevate the status of my whole casteless family into becoming, part of that person's clan, which is, when we say that Dragon Age treats women equally, this is what we're talking about. This is the equality we're given. Basically, no woman in the Dwarven Commoner playthrough is given very much agency. There's one warrior fighter woman I fought in the arena, and she was silent. That was part of her character arc, which I think is just cool, great. But
there is, so there is. Oh my god, what is her name? I don't know if you got to meet her in the Origin, but she's this little inventor girl, and she wants to go study. She wants to go study at the Circle. What is her Dagna? Dagna rules because Dagna, for a mage playthrough, you go to Orzammar, and she's just so excited to see you. She's like, "Oh my god, you're a mage! Oh, I want to go study at the Circle so bad." And that's actually a pretty good Dagna impression. I want to call that out.
Sure.
And she, you can go and take her letter to the Circle, and they'll let her study there. And she actually comes back as your artificer in Inquisition because she learned all the cool lyrium tricks. She can work with it because she's a dwarf.
That sounds really cool. See, that's great. I wish I had met her.
She rules. She's apparently the only woman with agency in Arspar.
Yeah. The rest of them, my mom is just somebody who has alcohol abuse problems.
Don't we all?
Yeah, listen, but it kind of sucks when it's just well, now you have to protect your big sister and your mom who's abusive, by being the guy who helps rough up people, it collects debts for some local crime lord, basically. So that all sucks. I don't love the way that this setting treats women, as we've established, but there's a very interesting story that gets you involved with Duncan the Grey Warden, which is that you have to basically try to help somebody throw a fight, or basically, my boss has bet a lot of money on somebody, so I am going to help rig a fight in the person he's bet on's favor. But when we get there, the person who he had bet on is drunk and just unconscious. So you steal that guy's armor and then you fight in his place. And of course, naturally, you win. And you get a lot of money, but then the guy who's been drunk sobers up and wanders out into the arena, and then he's just "Hey, what's going on?" And then everybody's "Oh fuck, take your helmet off." And then they're "Yeah, you're castless." They arrest you. It seems like your boss is gonna assassinate you. But then you fight your way through. You kill him. You have a buddy who is kind of helping you out. You kill your boss, and then Duncan is "Hey, I'll get you out of this, but you do have to become a warrior priest with me." And I was well, I guess. And I think BioWare does a lot of great, narrative stuff, but I was a little bit disappointed that, I know you have to meet a game where it's at, but I wish they had dug a little bit more into the fact that as a dwarf in this setting, going above the surface makes me a permanent outcast. I can never come back. And I was just yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. And I couldn't really push back on that, which I was a little bit frustrated by, but it was ultimately fine.
What are your feelings on Duncan? How do you feel about Duncan?
Okay. I like Duncan. But I also think he's a slimeball. And that, kind of rules, actually. And I don't think this game ends up... I think the game ends up being the Grey Wardens are awesome. And it's no. The Grey Wardens kind of suck shit. But that also rules.
They don't even suck shit that bad in this game. They suck shit pretty bad in Inquisition.
Right. I'm sure I'm sure Inquisition had the time to be like, it was pretty fucked up that like basically any route you take, Duncan like abuses his like situation and power over you to manipulate you into joining his army.
Oh, it's not even that. It's the like Orlesian Warden Order is the target of Inquisition. But so I think I agree with you. I love to hate Duncan. Duncan is a great narrative device, and he's a slime ball, but God, do I hate him. And it sucks even more because Alistair, your buddy, your co-warden, warden in crime, he like very much talks about Duncan as like a father. Right. And it's just like, I just want to reach through the screen, shake, and be like, you could do so much better. What are you doing?
Hey, Alistair, your father figure said that he would either let me get executed or join the military. Like, he's not a good dude. And Alistair's like kind of a good dude, which is, fun. I like Alistair a lot.
I love Alistair. He was my main romance for a long time. I've since joined the Zevran camp, but he is a sweetie, and I love him. Yeah, so in the very quickly, the mage origin is less involved. There's you're a mage. You go through something called the harrowing, which is the mage towers. Basically, they put you in a demon maze, and they're like, "Good luck. If you fuck up, we're gonna kill you." And the whole time you're in there, there's a Templar with his sword to your neck. And they're literally just ready to kill you if you start becoming an abomination, which is to say, like, a demon takes over your body. So you do the whole, like, mage, trial, whatever, you become a full mage. So exciting. Everyone's excited for you. And then your good buddy, your good friend, Jowan, is like, hey, psst, 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 psst. I got a problem. I'm in love. And you're like, okay. And he's in love with one of the acolytes of the chantry who serves in the tower. Now, do you think a religious prisoner and somebody who serves the chantry are allowed to be together?
I'm gonna say no.
Correct. So Jowan is like, listen, me and Lily, she's my one true, we're in love, you've gotta help me bust out of here. And you can help him bust out of there in a couple very funny ways. One of them involves leaving a straight up paper trail. Like, and my character, I very much play her as like this, like, goody two-shoes, parentheses, trauma. Like, she's just been there for so long that she's not really, like, examining the power structures around her. She's just kind of existing. And so you literally can go and, like, get this fire rod to melt a door, but you, like, have to get a requisition form for it and, like, get it approved by a senior mage. It's very funny when you, like, put it in context. You're like, can I please have this to do a crime? And they give it to you, which is very fun.
Yeah. Listen, I work for the government. That's about accurate.
That's about accurate. I mean, like, listen, our former president has 77 indictments, so.
You listen.
77 felony charges, baby! And counting. So, you bust out your buddy Jowan, or you try to, but at the very last second, you get caught. Now, one of the things I really love about Origins is there's goof shit that never gets explained or followed up on ever again. Like, Origins, because Thetis is, fun fact also about Thetis, if you don't know this, Thetis stands for the Dragon Age setting, and they just never
Yes, yeah, I think you told me that before. It's really good.
It's excellent. Thank you, BioWare. So, like, Origins, because it's kind of in its infancy, is just kind of the goofiest game. There's werewolves, there's weird magic shit that happens, there's my favorite thing and the thing you find in the Mage Tower, there's just a talking statue from Tevinter. Why is she there? Who is she? I don't know. Never gets followed up on again. There's just a Tevinter soul trapped in the basement of Kinloch Hold. Cool. But anyway, you get caught. And Jowan, dipshit, reveals himself to be a blood mage. Because he's like, listen, if I don't get the fuck out of here, they're going to do the tranquility ritual on me. Which is, like, they rob you of all emotion. You are sealed off from the Fade. You feel nothing. You want nothing. You are just kind of a human robot. Mm-hmm. And there's a tranquil working at the circle, so you can, like, see that in action. Wade. Or not Wade, sorry. Wade's the guy in Denerim who makes swords. There is a tranquil, whose name I'm blanking on, obviously, in the tower. But anyway, so you get caught. Jowan reveals himself to be a blood mage, And obviously everyone's like, oh no, blood magic! Even though blood magic objectively is just a tool, and as long as you use it properly, it's actually very safe. That's my hashtag soapbox. And so obviously Jowan has to go, but because you helped him and because you kind of either were involved in this, you are now at threat of the right of tranquility, and who steps in? But Duncan, to be like, well, you could become a religious soldier with me.
Mm-hmm.
You could go out in the real world and kill Darkspawn for me, because there's
you
like a
could
blight
also
coming.
be magically lobotomized, the choice is yours.
Choices. You're free to choose. This is a game of choices. So obviously you go with Dunk to go and hang out at Ostagar with hottie King Cailan.
Okay, I think King Cailan sucks.
I love that dumb motherfucker.
So when I talk to him as a dwarf, he does the very much, you've met people who've been on study abroad trips, right? So, he's very much like, oh my god, I studied abroad in Orzammar, I just love dwarven culture. Oh my, y'all in the Stones, it's very funny. I'm just like, alright, thank you, your highness, that sounds, yeah. I was previously a part of a discriminated caste, and I had to fight my way through here. Just carved my way through bodies, and then I was impressed into a religious military order. But I'm glad you had fun.
I actually don't know if the Grey Wardens are religious necessarily.
Yeah, no, I'm equating them more to Jedi, and that's not really, they're not really religious in that way.
They're culty.
They have some sort of, they have a guiding philosophy in the same way that a religion kind of does, but they don't have a god. No, they're
not Chantry affiliated.
Right.
So Cailan is just kind of a dipshit when you talk to him as an elf mage.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that for him. There's a very nice DLC. It's the Ostagar DLC. You get to actually go back. So at Ostagar, there's going to be a big battle that Aaron's going to tell you about in a minute, and it doesn't go well. But you go back to Ostagar, and it's really sad. Here's when I say goof shit, this is what I mean. How smart are the Darkspawn? We don't know. What we do know is that they crucify Cailan's body.
Oh, God.
So you, come to Ostagar, and it's a very sad DLC. If you bring, Wynn and Alistair and, all these people that were, and Morgan, people that were there with you. Mm-hmm. And it's just sad and contemplative, and you walk around and kind of, see the damage and stuff. And then there's just Cailan's crucified body, and you're like, well...
Wow.
I'm sad, but also confused. Why did the Darkspawn do that? But they did. I guess they care about human monarchies,
Sure. Why not?
Why not?
I did notice when I was watching the cutscenes, the YouTube cutscenes that I watched had a scene where Alistair, what happens is, you're given a position, King Cailan, and actually, no, we have to talk about the ritual first.
Oh, yes.
Basically, you meet Alistair, who is a former Templar, now a Grey Warden. He meets you and all your other Grey Warden buddies, go out, and you have to get 3 vials of Darkspawn blood to drink to transform into Grey Wardens. While you're out there in the wilds, you kill a bunch of Darkspawn. There's actually a very fun thing that happens where there's a note you find on a body, and it's hey, if you do this ritual over in a certain location, maybe a ghost will show up, and he does, and you kill the ghost, and it's that's a fun thing that having played Tears of the Kingdom and having a lens of oh, sometimes games will tell you what to do secretly, and that's fun and cool, and that's for a game that came out in 2008 2009, that's kind of neat that you could just get that kind of thing from it wasn't even a quest, it was just kind of a codex entry. So I was really excited about that, but basically what happens there is that what am I thinking of? You get the Darkspawn blood, but then you go and find the magic treaties, or they're not magic treaties, they're just treaties, but they're being kept by Morgan's mom, and Morgan is a woman who is an apostate mage. She lives out in the wilds outside the circle, the magic circle. And she's a very attractive goth woman, basically.
God, she's so hot. So hot and so mean.
she also takes, she takes you back to her mom, who's like an elder god, basically. And her mom gives you the treaties, and then you can go back and do the next part. One thing I kind of wanted to say about Morrigan, I kind of got the vibe that, like, as I listened to her talk more, she kind of hit me like as way younger than the game presents her, like maybe like 19 years old, because she is honestly like always talking about how sheltered she was, and like her, like she had like all these like mean responses, but like I kind of read that as like a person who is like sheltered and doesn't understand like the world that she's living in, and like just kind of lashing out because people think that the way that she's lived has been strange. So like I don't know if you've ever read that, but I certainly was like, oh, I don't Morgan is presented as being attracted, but I'm like, I'm not attracted to her because she seems like a kid to me now.
Yeah. I'm trying to look it up. It looks like sources are saying like late teens, early 20s, because she's in her 30s in Inquisition when she comes back.
Right. That tracks.
Yeah, they don't think they specified her age, but she does have a lot of like, a lot of her. I actually really love her quest line. I love getting her up to max friendship because she like very slowly starts to open up about the fact that she like has never depended on anyone, and she doesn't really understand like gifts, and she's very like skeptical, and you get to build trust with her, and it feels like genuinely satisfying when, at least in my case, like she calls you sister, and you're like, oh, like this is my best friend now, and I would kill and also die for her, right? Like it's hers is like one of my favorite companion quest lines in that whole game. It's genuinely really well done.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see where that goes. But anyway, you come back, and this is where you get the mission to. Well, no, first you have to drink the Darkspawn blood, and this is where you get Duncan being a Slimeball again. Because like the first person drinks the Darkspawn blood, dies immediately. Mm-hmm. Second person's like, oh no, I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I have a family. And he like draws his sword, and he's like backing away, and Duncan's like, he's like, well, there's only two options, and Duncan draws his sword, and it's like, hey, Duncan, maybe let the guy just run away. You don't have to do, nope, Duncan fucking kills him. And he's just like, turns to you, gore all over his face and sword, and he's like, we still have one left. And it's like, God, okay, I'll drink the fucking blood. But yeah, no, Duncan sucks. It's very funny that he's just like, you're gonna join my order. Yeah, you drink the blood. You have a dream of a dragon, and you wake up and you're Grey Warden.
I really love that initiation scene, because it really like, man, the stakes get so high immediately when the first guy just like fucking chokes, and then the second guy dies, and it's just like all you now. It's wild. So yeah, that's Mr. Dunky, and then from there you get to start prepping for the battle at Ostagar, and the whole thing is that Cailan wants glory. He wants to be the king in the history books that like fought valiantly at the sides of his soldiers and shit like that, which is all well and good, I suppose. He goes in with big gold fuck-off armor that you can have Alistair wear later.
Ooh, that's fun.
I don't know if you know this, but Alistair is Cailan's half-brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That is like a big reveal. For Alistair, as like, he's like, yeah, so by the way, we have the same dad. And then Alistair's under the impression that his mom is like a kitchen maid that died, and he has a half-sister in Denerim who does not react well to him showing up, because she's like, they told me you were dead. I knew you were fucking alive. You killed my mom. Go fuck yourself. Also, give me money. Which, fair, Valid. You have the spoiled brother who grew up, in secret, in riches, and you are, you wash clothes for a living in Denerim, right? It's not great. So, fun fact, not his mom. The girl's mom did die in childbirth, but that is not Alistair's mom. Alistair's half-elf. His mom is Fiona, who is the leader of the mages in... Oh my god, maybe... Either she took over for Ferelden or she's somewhere in the Marches.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's complicated.
It's a lot.
Is there not an option to tell him?
No, because at no point does the player know that.
Oh, wild.
You as the player who has played all 3 installments can piece it together, but your character never has an opportunity to put that knowledge in context.
That's fun. I like when games have weird meta-narratives like that.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
It's a good time. So, but yeah, the other player, so you got Cailan who wants to go die gloriously in battle. Then you got Loghain, who is like his advisor, and you take one look at the motherfucker and you go, he's evil.
Oh, yeah, it's an evil vizier, obviously. Great.
Obviously, and you're so right, bestie. And Loghain is like, you're a dipshit, but whatever. And Loghain is there because Cailan is married to his daughter, Honora.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the plan is they're going to go to battle, and then the Grey Wardens are going to go light the signal fire, call in reinforcements that are led by Loghain, and then everyone charges gloriously and beats back the Darkspawn. There's no blight. Battle starts. It's going. Duncan's on the battlefield. Cailan's on the battlefield. Darkspawn ahoy. They're humanoid. Actually, if you pay attention, it's revealed that like they're all corresponding to like people turn into Darkspawn or they can be birthed. So like the big fuck off horn guys are Canary. The regular ones are human. There's Genlocks are humans. Herlocks are I'm getting those confused.
Elves.
Yeah,
dwarves.
there's elves and dwarves.
Okay, yeah, but they're all based on species in the game.
Precisely. So then you go to the tower, and you're like, hey, I'm here to do my job. Problem is the tower's being overrun, so you gotta fight your way up there. And then when you get up there and light the signal fire, the reinforcements do not come.
Yeah, Loghain turns around.
Loghain says, retreat, bitch. And his hot lady assistant is like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. No, I'm sure. And so they retreat. Cailan dies. He gets literally squished to death in the fist of a Darkspawn. And then Duncan also dies, ripped to a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And you get knocked out, and a dragon saves you from the tower. That dragon is Morrigan's mother. You wake up in the hut.
Got you.
Now you learn that, Loghain went back to Denerim and said, so sad that those fucking Grey Wardens killed King Cailan.
Yeah.
So now there are 2 of you against a blight, treaties, and, you are a shitty traitor to the crown.
Yeah.
In the middle of a civil war and a blight.
It's great. It's a good time. I do want to, before we get more into that, say when I was watching the cutscenes, there's a bit where when Alistair dies, when you die, Alistair is like wounded, and when he's dying, he like crawls up to your like unconscious body and like caresses you. Mm-hmm. That seems a bit early. Why does that happen in the DLC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know,
that didn't happen with mine. I guess maybe I'm a dude, and the person who's playing through played as a woman. But like, that was weird. I thought I was like, "Hey, buddy, we just met."
We just met, but I actually don't remember that happening. I wonder what they did to trigger it.
Yeah, very strange.
Very odd. His romance is cute. Shout out, there's a modder. So Alistair's a virgin, by the way. That's a big part of his. I think he's 19 years old. He's a virgin. It's fine.
Wow.
Or he might be in his early 20s, but one of those things. There's a modder out there. Shout out to this modder, like earnestly shout out to this modder that basically made a mod that is trying to make Alistair's first time having sex more romantic, to celebrate this milestone in a young man's life. And I think mods are art. I think it's great that somebody did that. That is a fantastic form of self-expression.
Sure, but I think it also should be fucking... I want Alistair to be like, so what do I do with this thing?
That's exactly what he's like.
Yeah, of course, because
he's like,
yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Help.
We don't have sex ed here in Ferelden.
You get one extremely horny elf assassin.
Yes, I've read about this person.
I love him to death.
Very good. Yeah. Also, there's a dog that shows up. I think the dog's cool. I'm glad that they give you a dog companion. It's always nice to have a little dog.
Yeah. So my biggest complaint about Inquisition is that you don't get a dog. You do only if you romance Cullen and buy the Trespasser DLC. You get a dog for 10 minutes.
That's strange. Yay, what are we doing?
Yeah, give me my dog back.
Yeah. But I mean, that's as far as we go. You know, I played a little bit more, met some more folks. I met a Canary guy who was in a cage, and I recruited him.
Stan!
Yeah, he seems cool. Yeah, I know. If Baldur's Gate wasn't coming out, I might actually keep playing Dragon Age. But Baldur's Gate's coming out, so I'm gonna spend a lot of my time in the future doing that.
Yeah, I'm starting to think I should download it soon, eh?
Yeah, it's 126 gigs, so it'll take a while.
Cool. So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good overall impression of, like, the flow of Dragon Age Origins. The rest of the game is, like, very much, you go to a place, you have a treaty, and the guy at the place says, listen, I'd love to help, but I got my own problems to deal with. And you have to solve their problem, and then they help you. And in addition to that, you get the kind of this fourth bonus quest with Arl Eamon, who raised Alistair. Arl Eamon is in a demon coma because he got poisoned by, guess who? Jowan.
Jowan.
My good friend Jowan was like, I got hired and someone told me to poison him. And you're like, Jesus Christ, man, get it together. And his little boy is possessed by a demon, Connor, and you get to fix that. And then also, Arl Eamon is in a coma, so you have to, like, go get, I shit you not, Jesus's ashes and make him sniff it, and then he wakes up.
Yeah, this is the urn thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I started getting crumbs of that in this
you
village.
Go fight a dragon cult in Haven. Again, cool. Goof shit, dragon cult.
Sure.
I love it.
Sounds fun.
It's great. Inquisition, listen, I'm saying this as a professional game dev. Absolutely no, like, shout out to my colleagues. Making games is so fucking hard, dude. I will say, one of the things that makes Inquisition a little bit harder to connect to for me is it just takes itself so seriously, and I just don't think I'm used to that. I genuinely miss. There's like a DLC for 2 where Hawk sticks their fucking hand into wyvern shit, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. Mm-hmm. Just goofs. So, yeah. Hopefully, Dreadwolf has some goofs and gags.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. You know, I'm sure you'll have thoughts, and probably won't hear them on air, but it'll be nice to see what your thoughts are after. Man, Inquisition came out in what, 17?
15.
15, man. So it'll probably be almost 10 years by the time it does come out. So, like,
Yeah, they just hit alpha last year, I think. So I'm not sure what their dev timeline is, but they're still very much in development. So I know there have also been leaks, and if you're listening to this show, like, please don't share leaks, on the internet. It's really, really annoying for devs. Leaks are not representative of final content. We work very hard, and so, like, if you see you would be surprised as to how long things don't look right, and then they come together very suddenly at the end, for visuals. So, like, please, if you see leaks, don't share them around.
Sure.
That's my professional plea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, okay. For our marketing minute, I have kind of a convoluted one, but I was like, okay. I feel like Dragon Age Origins was a big evolution on a lot of the stuff that BioWare had been doing beforehand. So if you don't know the background, BioWare, did the original, like, computer RPGs, which are like, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, right, which were pretty, important at the time. Potentially also Icewind Dale. I don't know about that, but they're in the same vein. If you know anything about the original Fallout games, that kind of, like, isometric style, like, tabletop kind of adjacent game is what I mean when I say computer RPG. Mm-hmm. But, like, and then we get KOTOR, obviously, right? BioWare is the people who do KOTOR, and then they get bought by EA, and then everything goes to hell. But if we were gonna try to make like, I feel like they changed those games because those games were always story centric, but they weren't like fully voice acted and like had animations and a heavy investment in character relationships the same way that these BioWare games did with Mass Effect notably, but also here in Dragon Age. So like, Leyla, if we were to make something like a big narrative or story-centric change to an established genre of game, what genre do you think really could use a kind of overhaul that would still kind of fit in this mode? Or, if that's too complicated a question, what if we were making a BioWare game? What does our BioWare fantasy game look like?
Well, no. The first question is an interesting concept. I do wanna mull it over.
I mean, I could talk about what I might do to make story-centric changes. So, I think it's really Crusader Kings, right? I think you start with Crusader Kings because that game is already about making weird narrative choices, and I think it's like, you set it in a smaller setting so that way you can actually do more character work and voice acting, etc. But then like you do create like, a big possible web of relationships and characters. It's like Crusader Kings meets Fire Emblem, right? Where you can have all those like individual character cutscenes and conversations. And like I think that would be a very fun thing to do, where it's like you have all this like weird technical background stuff, but then you could also like have these relationships where your characters and your monarch or whatever you're playing as does end up like having these weird side relationships with the people they're trying to romance or assassinate or become a scholar. Because like I think a lot of the Crusader King stuff is very narrative focused, like you have to read it in a text box, and I think seeing it actually and hearing it voiced acted out would be a big game changer.
I definitely agree. See, I think for me, I really want to see like an interesting story based shooter, and it's been done before. Like Deus Ex, I think is a really good example of just like using the shooting mechanics as, making sure that they have weight and you're not just like doing like a bullet hell, Right. I don't know what changes specifically I would make, but there's got to be something interesting you can do that is still fundamentally a shooter, but gives you some sort of like story weight that maybe isn't necessarily about the like weight and reckoning of violence. Like I would really like to see shooter mechanics, but maybe not even necessarily with guns or death. Like there's got to be something you can do, right? Something interesting. And I know I'm being vague here, but like when I sit here and think, and I'm like, okay, my first instinct is puzzle games, right? But there's plenty of like really beautiful story-driven puzzle games that, I think that's a genre that's really well developed. And then otherwise there's like, quote unquote cozy games, but those have really good story elements to them as well. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I think to me, a really underexplored genre narratively, not that there aren't narrative shooters, but I don't see enough of them. Is kind of that. As to what the Mortified BioWare fantasy game is, I think, listen, you and I have overlapping interests. Mm-hmm. We like mechs. Mm-hmm. We like talking about colonialism. Mm-hmm. And we like stupid high fantasy shit. Right. I think there's got to be a lane somewhere in the Iron Widow fantasy space. Not specifically that setting, mm-hmm. but I'm talking big fuck-off fantasy mechs with a magic system, and we make a big anti-colonialism narrative.
Yeah. Maybe something where you get, like, your player character gets, like, dragooned into, like, the Empire's like Knight Corps, except the Knights are all, mecha pilots. And from there you have to like start a revolution inside the like mecha pilot corps and like do a civil war that way. That could be fun.
Could be fun.
Yeah.
There's also reckoning with the quote-unquote benevolent colonialism. So, for example, having a larger, more powerful state invest in your state's infrastructure, and at first it seems all chill and good, and then they start to want to, like, extract favors or abuse some of the resources or the people. There's a lot of rooms, but with fantasy mix.
Yeah. Publishers, if that kind of pitch sounds interesting to you, I have a 95,000 word manuscript called The Chains Nothing Can Break about that exact concept. So hit us up. It's still available.
Yeah, this is very chainsy, isn't it?
It's a little bit chainsy.
But hey, that just means you're in your comfort zone.
Yep. Well, I think that was a pretty good conversation. As BioWare games get older, I'm sure we'll talk about them more often. Eventually we should do a KOTOR episode at one point.
We should absolutely do a KOTOR episode sometime. I love those games. If you want to talk about, oh god, I don't know where the KOTOR remake has landed. In the press, there's been some change in the development, so I'm not really sure what the status of that is. I hope the KOTOR remake is continuing smoothly. Right. But I just don't do really well with D&D mechanics and like dice rolls in like single player RPGs. I would love for a game design pass on those games, because KOTOR 2 to me is poetry. It's an excellent narrative about how the Jedi are shitty centrists, and what grief does to a person. It's really good. But yeah, this was great. I think I was exceptionally normal.
Yeah, no, you didn't have any incredibly long-winded tangents about world building at all, which I'm very proud of.
Thank you so much. I kept it all in. And proud of us. I hope you had a good time with Dragon Age, and I hope you have an even better time with Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, we'll see. Leyla, when we are not talking about narrative RPGs, where can we be found on the internet?
So you can now find me at LEYLSCS on Blue Sky and Tumblr. As we said earlier in the show, I am absolutely not on Twitter anymore. Leyla does not exist, but she does exist on Blue Sky, and it's the same exact content you would have gotten on Twitter. I just post nonsense. I'm not really up to anything. I'm working on a big Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom illustration fan art thing. So if you like that, watch out for that. Otherwise, there's more and more press about Silent Hill Ascension, the massively interactive live event show product from your friend me at Genvid Entertainment. So I will be increasingly busy as we are launching this year.
It was really hard for Leyla to make this entire video game, so you do have to buy it.
Yeah, I did it all
They didn't
myself.
have any help.
I did not at all. I have help from dozens and dozens of incredible artists who I love working with every single day. But yes, so I will be increasingly busy with that.
Yeah. Congrats to the Silent Hill Ascension team. You can find me on... Am I on Twitter? Am I still checking Twitter regularly? Yes, I'm not posting there regularly, but that's at AaronSXL. If you want to follow my Blue Sky account, that's @voigt .bsky.business. I don't know what the fucking Blue Sky URL is yet. It's @voigt. Find me there. I'm on Tumblr at Monster Factory Fanfic. But my main site is aavoigt.com, where I talk about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. As a week before this episode comes out, I just released a 50-minute video essay about R.F. Kuang's Babel and how it intersects with Roden Rookendecker's Spire. I worked so hard on it, so if you like that, please go and check that out. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla.
Aaron.
How should we close this episode out today?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You would think I'd have a bunch of... Well, Aaron, swooping is bad.
Swooping is bad. We'll see you all next week.